There has never been a better time to own a product brand. You may have tried so many tactics to get the company where you think it needs to be, but if it's not working the way you want it to, it's not your fault. Tactics change all the time. The thing that really matters are the fundamentals of brand building and psychology when it comes to scaling a product business. I've spent the last number of years trying to piece together exactly how the most successful brands in the world continue to be profitable and attract business. Even when things are shut down, some brands continue to do month-over-month profitability. And what I've found is that the secrets of the branding, marketing, and advertising world don't just go around telling everybody how they do what they do. My mission here is to give you the tools, the understandings, and the frameworks to do exactly what they do. To not just make more money in your business, but to gain more clarity, skyrocket purchases, and achieve a new level of growth that's both profitable and easy to manage. I had a client do 700% growth in a single year with the things that I'm going to tell you in this video. So if you're ready to go, grab a pen and paper and let's get into it. Okay. How to attract more of the right customers and increase profit margins using brand storytelling. So the greatest detriment you're going to have to scale is a lack of clarity. My aim with this video, as I just said, is to provide you the frameworks required to grow and develop your product business in a way that's efficient, repeatable, and simplistic. So if you operate a product business, e-com store, etc., that relies on customers buying from your website, or if you're looking to generate more customers and sales, but you're experiencing either not enough customers or low or slow sales, standing out from the competition and attracting more of the right customers, or just general confusion about where you should be putting marketing spend and effort and how to track those results. Or you and your team just want more financial freedom in the business, but you feel like you need to hit certain financial goals in order to do that. So some of the myths I come across when I talk to clients and I just see out there in the online space is that scaling is all about your product line or how long you've been in business. I also see a lot of talk around focusing on revenue sales or thinking that paid ads actually help you scale. None of that stuff is true. Instead, the true winning metrics of product success are all about growing margins over just simple revenue and executing brand building strategies over wasting money on mediocre messaging or outdated tactics that just won't get you anywhere quickly. So imagine for a second if you had total clarity on who your customer base was and why they should be doing business with you over anybody else in your market space. You had a solid understanding of how to create that marketing content in a way that really lands. Your customers keep coming back again and again. And most of the highest leverage actions in the business, getting new customers, making more money, were handled automatically. So I'm going to share 3 secrets in this training. So 1, why all successful product brands are really just stories and how that alone contributes to thousands in profits and success for them. And I'll explain how to use this power of story to get more customers to want to do business with you, even at higher prices. 2, why any company of any size can use these methods to get unstuck and reach that next level. And 3, why you don't need tons of staff, software, money to build more demand for your products and see higher levels of cash flow every month. So a bit about me. When I was in my 20s, I found Facebook advertising and I worked as a freelance media buyer for years. So I would do Facebook ad buys, Instagram ad buys, and a little bit of Google. So as I was running these campaigns for various brands and service businesses, I started to notice that sometimes the ads would do really well and sometimes they wouldn't do as well, even though I was using the exact same techniques to run these ads. And what I realized from that is that the ads were only as good as the content of the ad. And the content of that ad was only as good as their understanding of the brand. And that brand is only as good as the strategy. Without this fundamental baseline strategy, all of your marketing is going to be challenging. So it started me on the hunt of what actually makes people purchase from a particular company, especially ones in the fashion space like Louis Vuitton, $33.3 billion, and Ray-Ban, $2.7 billion, or lifestyle space like Patagonia, $769 million, or Lululemon, $9.6 billion, or Nike, $49.81 billion just last year. This is where I discovered the powerful world of brand storytelling. Since then, I've directed videos for a company like Clinique and Joe Malone London down here. And I've consulted a wide range of brands on how to use storytelling the way these brands that I just mentioned do to uncover the right marketing strategies for their products and business. This is a shop on Facebook and Instagram ad manager. You can see here 3,000 spent, 11,000 made, 1,000 spent, 6,000 made. And down here is from implementing an email strategy. So just over $2,500 for them. And that may not seem like a lot, but this was in the first 4 weeks that this was set up. And something I really want to get clear here is that this was an extra $2,500 that they wouldn't have had. And depending on what level you're at, this will always compound. So who knows where it'll be in 6 months. But if you don't know how to implement these things, the business is going to just feel like a hamster wheel that you can never get off of. So product businesses have 3 main sizes. So first we have the tiny home. The tiny home is focused mainly on generating first-time buyers. Word of mouth is the main driver of growth. They don't run that many ad campaigns, maybe 1 or 2 a year, maybe Christmas, maybe Black Friday. And most of their processes are still done manually. They have razor-thin margins, sometimes don't even know what margins they have, or they're operating at a loss. They have between 1 and 5 employees, and they're usually doing between $1,000 and $30,000 a month. Next, we have the 3-story home. So with the 3-story home size, you've got a focus on revolving door marketing efforts. They've got proven and tested advertising. They use automations for scale and efficiency. They prioritize margin over cash flow to reinvest or just keep. They have many returning customers. Usually you do this with about between 5 and 15 employees, but it could be done with less. And they're making about $100,000 to $500,000 a month. And lastly, we've got the mansion compound. They can spend the most to acquire a customer because they use that margin to then reinvest in their growth. They run and test many strategies all year round. They're buying on every single platform that's out there. They're doing TV commercials, they're doing print, they're doing billboards, they're doing everything. Usually they have 10 to 20 employees or more, sometimes into the hundreds. They incorporate various agency partners at this stage for marketing, advertising, and creative efforts. They also shape culture and public opinion, and they're doing about $1 million a month or more. Some of the clients I've worked with are doing up to $1 million a day. The main things I'm going to talk about in this video are going to take you from the tiny home to the 3-story home. Even if you think you're even smaller than the tiny home, even better to use these techniques because it'll just get you going so much faster. So now I'm going to go over the path to purchase formula, which has 3 core areas: brand affinity, strategic funnel, and ongoing storytelling. And let's kick it off with the most powerful one, brand affinity. The problem is noise. There has never been more options of companies or products. Brand was invented to combat these issues of commoditization. So essentially at one point there were only a few products. Maybe you go to the store and you see there's like 3 pairs of shoes. Some of them are going to be a little bit faster. Some of them are going to be a bit more comfortable. Some of them are going to have a better quality. At this point, none of that stuff matters anymore because there is just too many products on offer. So people realize that if they created a brand around their products, they could build a huge moat around their business, making it incredibly difficult for other products to come and take market share. And they can build that deeper connection with people to make sure that they have that affinity with their customer base, that magnetization, that idea of feeling connected. So as long as you focus only on your products, you will always have price competition and you will always feel like you are struggling against others in your space. Here's a small example below of a Joe Malone bottle compared to a perfume bottle that is not branded at all. Some might argue that the bottle itself could communicate a bit of a brand, but ultimately when you look at this, you probably know that the Joe Malone bottle is going to be more expensive, and some people might even think it's going to be better quality, even if there's no proof to that. So here's the solution. Differentiate. You have to create something that answers the question, why should they choose us? Your brand isn't your logo. It's not your products or your copywriting. A brand is supposed to communicate personality. It's an idea. It's about building a persona using values and ideas that drive your copy, pictures, video, and strategy and attract that right customer because they see that affinity in you. So when we look at these logos down here, Starbucks isn't that logo. That's not Starbucks. That's not the brand. These are all concepts that these companies have spent a lot of time, money, and energy building an idea of what these logos mean. One of the most famous brand strategists, Marty Neumeier, says that brand lives in the mind. So here's some actions you can take. Make a list of both customer values and brand values. So what are you for and what are you against? These values could be, we believe that the earth needs to be saved, or that representation and diversity are important. Make a list of as many as you can possibly think of. Community, family, friendship. If you need help with this, Google values. You'll get a list of hundreds of different values that you can then start to put together and figure out which ones your company should stand for. And equally as important are, what are you against? Are you against discrimination? Are you against bad parenting, drinking? All of these things are going to help shape your brand image and at the same time help differentiate you in a way that no one can compete with. The second thing to do is expand your value. So there's two kinds of value. There's utility value and there's hedonic value. This light bulb, you could say, is utility value. It's probably about $1.99. And this Picasso painting is pure hedonic value. Utility value is all about utility, actual use. You buy shoes so that you have shoes. You buy pants so that you have clothes. You buy light bulbs so that you have light. You buy a car so that you can get places. There is a cap on utility value, and it is just getting less and less valuable over time as it relates to the money that you can charge for its utility. Because there are so many products, as I already said, there are hundreds of ways for people to satisfy utility. Hedonic value, on the other hand, is emotional value. This Picasso painting sold for $69 million. The utility is you want a piece of art to hang on the wall. The hedonic value is culture, memories, beauty, rarity, feeling like you're better than other people because you own it maybe. There is an emotional charge to every single item. The more you can understand what emotional value your company is giving to others, the more you can charge, the more people will buy it, and the easier it will be to sell. So decide how you want people to feel about you. Are you about community? Are you about being an individual? Are you about being tough? Or are you about being the life of the party? The most successful companies at their core are based on human archetypes. Develop your brand tone of voice so that you can really create headlines and copy and images that truly speak and attract and bring people in because your customers share in those same ideas. This is a brand personality chart made by a very famous brand strategist named David Acker, where he studied hundreds of thousands of brands and realized that they fit into one of these 5 categories at their ultimate core. Underneath those, you'll have subcategories, but it's very important if you're trying to hit over that $100,000 a month or more line that you focus on one primary category and maybe one secondary category. So a few examples here of how to use this. So we've got sincerity, excitement, competence, sophistication, and ruggedness. And then underneath those, you've got other ones to inspire you on how you can actually show up to your customer base. So an example of sincerity might be things like Band-Aid. So an example of sincerity might be things like Band-Aid or Tide. This is really about trust. It's about honesty. It's very big in the beauty space and also crucial in the health space. Next we have here is excitement, stuff like daring, spirited. An example here might be companies like Red Bull or Nike. Next we've got competence, things like reliable, intelligent, successful. This is very crucial for banks, TD, Bank of America. Very important that they present competence, reliability, intelligence. This is also very big in the tech space and also in the car space. Next, we've got sophistication, upper class, glamorous, good looking, charming, very popular in the fashion world. You think about Louis Vuitton or Tiffany's. And lastly, ruggedness, outdoorsy, glamorous, tough. You think about brands like Carhartt or Under Armour. Some brands are what are called a branded house, and some companies are what are called a house of brands. There are two main brand architectures to consider here. One is a branded house, and the other is a house of brands. A branded house is the most common thing that you'll see. It's where there's one main brand, but underneath they may have sub-brands that project a slightly different personality. For instance, Nike has Air Jordan. Apple is very similar. The iPhone, the iPod, Apple Watch, each one has its own personality. A house of brands, on the other hand, is something more like Procter & Gamble or Estee Lauder. They own many brands underneath. Procter & Gamble owns things like Tide and Crest and Pantene and Pampers and Pringles. Procter & Gamble owns things like Tide and Crest and Iams and Duracell and Pantene and Pampers. So one way to get this started is to just create a mood board with images that reflect the feeling that you want people to have and see when they interact with you. This is a mood board for a client who has a watch company. You'll see on here there's hardly any watches. This is about just what people should feel and communicate, and it gives an idea of how to go about structuring your creative content. So for instance, he wanted to do a photo shoot with a car, and first he was thinking Lamborghini, but when we dove deeper into the brand, that Tesla actually aligns more with the brand values, and that should be how we communicate the value. So here's problem 2. People don't buy products, they buy narratives. So let's talk about how to do that. So products are a byproduct of the brand. And focusing on your products and features and benefits alone will just make you compete on price in a sea of competition. Most companies make themselves the hero of the company, and this is where they go very, very wrong. They focus all of their marketing and advertising on them, their products, how long they've been in business, how great the quality is, how many awards they've won. Customers don't care as much as they care about how the purchase makes them feel. So here's the solution. Build a customer-centric narrative. What story are you inviting customers into? And that's by understanding the guide-hero dynamic. Every story has two key characters, the guide and the hero. There's other characters too, but for the purposes of this, the guide and the hero. The customer is the Luke Skywalker of the movie of their lives. And the company is more like the guide. They're more like the Yoda. The brand's job is to reflect back to the customer what the customer wants and then step in to lead them to victory. So your customer is on a journey, they're going about their lives, they want certain things. So the action steps here are use an intersectional approach to your avatar. Think beyond demographics into psychographics. Sure, you might say our brand is for women between the ages of 25 and 45, but go into those psychographics more, like where are they at? What transformation are they having? Is there a collective experience they might be experiencing? You know, maybe they want to be loved. They want to be seen as a good parent. They want to feel like a badass. The more you put those things together, the better your company is going to be, the stronger and the more attractive your products will be. Some people worry that if they get too niche specific, that they're going to end up losing out on some customer market share. But here's the thing. You can get very specific in your brand avatar and not have that happen, because people will still buy from you even if they've only have one of the things that you've listed. So for instance, you could build the brand for men between the ages of 45 and 60 who are dads, who like metal music, and who have a dream of skydiving one day. You put all those things together in your creative, in your photos, and in your copy, and in how you show up as the company. It'll attract people who fit those boxes, but it'll also attract people who don't fit those boxes, who are even kind of interested in those emotions and experiences. Abercrombie & Finch is a great example of this. Most of their brand personality for years has been centered around attractive white male football players. And yet a lot of the world bought Abercrombie & Finch in the 2000s, including me, who are none of those things. But the point being is that people love the idea of those things, and buying those products brought you closer to that idea. So now let's talk about the next step, which is your funnel structure. This is super important because this is where you really make all the money. So here's the problem. Most people's customer journey and funnel has leaks because it's either too complicated, or it's not being tracked properly, or you don't have the right things in it. Most people try too many things to scale their brand. Most stores don't factor in their price points to their marketing strategy and test if the numbers will actually work in a way that actually helps them grow and not just lose money. We all pay more to get customers today than 5 years ago. Most e-com stores and brands are focused on getting more top of funnel content, which is the most expensive to get and doesn't guarantee there will be money in the business, because ads do not equal more money. If you don't have the right elements at each step of the funnel, ads will only eat at your COGS, your cost of goods sold, and your cash flow. So quickly, here's the funnel steps. We've got tofu as the top of funnel. That's people who don't know you at all, just awareness. They're seeing you for the very first time. Mofu, that's the middle of funnel. That's where most of your customers are going to be. They've heard of you, they follow you on Instagram, or they've seen your stuff or someone's mentioned, but they haven't actually made a purchase yet. Or bottom of funnel, Bofu, where people actually will make a purchase. You will always have more people at your top of funnel and less people at the bottom. So it's important that you keep expanding your top of funnel reach so that the bottom of funnel always has more people in it. And last stage of the funnel is the evangelists. They're the people that buy from you more than once and tell people that they've bought your stuff. And those are very, very, very important because they give you the most money over time. And they're also the cheapest to maintain, which gives you the highest possible margin on their purchases. Focus on the fundamentals of scale. There are only 3 methods to make money in a business: C, F, and AOV. C stands for customers. You can increase the number of new customers. F stands for frequency. You can increase the number of times they buy. Or AOV, average order value, you can increase the amount they spend when they buy. Those are the only 3 things you can do. Ideally, you do all of them, but you don't have to do all of them depending on where you're at in the business. You could focus on one and drastically increase the amount that you're making. So customers. New customers has the lowest impact on margin because usually you're paying something to get them to see you for the first time, but you always need more customers coming in order to make the other 2 elements most successful. New customers can take a bit of time to warm up usually, unless your product is a direct pain solution product. So that would be something like a back brace or skincare for acne. Usually those convert a lot quicker because it's a very direct pain that you're solving. If you are more in the fashion space or lifestyle space, or it's not like a life or death situation, then it does take a little bit more to warm people up. Use things like user-generated content and brand ambassador relationships to grow your word of mouth. And word of mouth, honestly, at every level remains an important part of success. So make sure that your customers and user experiences on your site is on brand so that more people talk positively about what they bought from you and feel like they made the right decision. So here's an example from Carhartt. This brand's actually been around for over 100 years, and they've evolved quite a bit since then. They're always telling their story bigger, badder, stronger. And these are shots from their main page. So what I mean about integrating your story into your material, we have something here, warmer weather is on the horizon. That's brand language right there. Every gray shirt has a story, and they talk about that. Battle tested in the heat of real world emergencies. This is you want to ask yourself, could another company say this? And would another company say it exactly the way that we're saying it? As long as you read your website and think that another company like yours could take your exact copy and use it, then you haven't diversified your brand personality enough. So frequency, this is the second highest impact on margin. Repeat buyers, backdoor funnel, email and retargeting, etc. And it's the cheapest to do. Nike remarkets to its own buyers constantly. Put this picture here. This is an ad from a number of years ago. You might remember it. Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. This is quintessential Nike. This ad is not for new buyers. This ad is for people who already buy from Nike, and it's just reinforcing their personality, their voice, what they believe in. When they launched this ad after Colin Kaepernick took a knee and raised the Black Power symbol at an NFL event, there were a lot of people outraged by that action and outraged by the fact that Nike put him in a commercial. Some people even said that they were burning their Nike shoes in protest of the fact that Nike stood behind Colin Kaepernick when everything was happening with Black Lives Matter. Nike's response was, well, you've already bought the shoes. We don't care if you burned them. This is due to years of Nike understanding that Nike is about an idea It's about a personality, and it's here to be involved in the conversation. And lastly, we have average order value. So this is the highest impact on margin. This is about adjusting price. Things are more expensive now than they've ever been across the supply chain ecosystem. So really do the math here. Lay out all of your costs and put your sales channels into a spreadsheet. You need to know where you're at so you know how much to charge, so you know how many customers you need and how much you need them to spend in order to reach the financial goals that you want to reach. If you have ongoing marketing costs, consider them. Factor in cost of goods, cost of a Shopify store. This will tell you if you need to raise prices. Don't get caught up in the idea that higher prices means less buyers. In many cases today, it's the exact opposite. It's almost impossible to be the highest priced company in a space. But I'd recommend that you be higher than the middle, not the top, but somewhere around the middle to right below to right above. You definitely don't want to be the cheapest because there's too many big competitors in that space. You can't outprice Amazon. You can't outprice Walmart. So it's super important that if you're serious about this, that you price in a way that helps your company. And if you need to raise your brand value to justify it, that's very easy to do. Also key about average order value is create upsells and downsells at checkout. So once someone buys something, offer them something else. This should all be done automatically and built directly into your website. And there are many Shopify apps that do this. Average order value is how much money they spend at checkout. IPC is items per checkout. That's how many items they buy. This also affects your average order value, but not always. If you know your margins are good, items per checkout will help. And many of the huge companies that I've worked with focus on items per checkout all the time. They want people checking out with as many items as possible because they know those items are priced at a good enough margin where this helps them scale. If your margins are not good on your products, having people buy more stuff may not help you. If someone buys 2 products that are each $100, but there was only a $10 margin on those products, and you have other expenses in the business, then you actually lost money on those purchases. If, on the other hand, you have a product that's $100, but you've got a $50 margin on those products, and then someone buys a $50 product and you have a $30 margin on that product, then there will quickly be more money in the business. And last but certainly not least in this path to purchase framework is ongoing storytelling. So the problem is not all content and platforms work for all brands. Using the wrong social platform and the wrong content strategies to tell your brand story is one of the biggest problems that I see. So the solution is explore your avenues before investing time and money. Getting customers relies on telling the right story to the right people at the right time. So determine where your customers are and how they like to engage in certain types of spaces. So whether it's influencers, pure entertainment, product placement, trade shows, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, short form, long form, blogs, Pinterest, podcasts, literally your customers are doing all of those things. So you have to loop back into your customer-centric mission and meet them in a way that you can show up authentically as the brand, not just because someone else is doing it or you see another brand having success in a certain way. Example, Band-Aid sent Band-Aids up in the Apollo missions because they wanted to align themselves with the future. Gymshark grew through brand ambassador relationships and using influencers and getting them to repost. And Red Bull made short-form videos and commercials, and I got a few examples here. So they do classic commercials. They put sponsorship on, this man who jumped from space, if you remember that video. And they even have an F1 team in the highest level of racing, fully sponsored by Red Bull. Their big thing is excitement. They know what they're about. They know the narrative and the story that they're telling, and they put it in front of the right people at the right time in a creative way. And then when someone wants an energy drink and they see Red Bull, there's trust, there's belief, and there's love towards the stuff that this brand has been putting out for years and years and years, which then makes people even more likely to buy their drinks. You get customers by conveying the story you set out above through video, photography, design, and communicating your ideas. That's how you get and keep customers, because you tell it over and over again until that idea spreads and people buy from you just through the extension of those shared values. When you're making content, you want to consider this acronym, VRIN. Valuable, rare, immutable, non-replaceable. Valuable makes people feel something and shares an idea. Rare is how common is it to see? If any other company could just take the exact same photo and do the exact same thing, it's not rare. Immutable is how likely are these ideas to change over time? Can it stand the test of time? And non-replaceable, do people feel like we need this? People feel that about Nike. People feel that about a lot of these companies who put stuff out like you might say this cannot be replaced no matter how many fitness brands there are. The slight positioning differences between Nike and Adidas makes both of their branding content clearly non-replaceable because people continue to buy from them, both of them, to satisfy slightly different needs in their own vision of themselves and who they are. Here's a couple of examples of the kind of content you'd want to use on like an Instagram or a way to just think about what you're putting out there. So lifestyle, product content, and UGC. Lifestyle is stuff like this. We've got this woman drinking this drink. We've got these guys sitting in this car. The idea is this is the story. When you see an image like this and Tiffany's, she's looking in the distance. She's got these gray glasses on. She's drinking her drink. She's hanging out with her friends. This is the story that they're showing. This is the lifestyle that their customers want. Even if they're not living it fully, this is what they would want. And by depicting this lifestyle, people start to associate the products with having this lifestyle, and that is what makes people buy them. Similar with this, these two cool guys sitting in the back of this expensive car. You want OVO because in your mind, and maybe in truth too, when you buy the sweater, you feel like, hey, I'm this cool guy sitting at this back of this rich car. Or let me find an expensive car that I can sit at the back of with my OVO sweater so I can live out this fantasy story. Product. This is the second ones. This is hat. And then we've got, this is a close-up on a product. And then we have some UGC, kind of like these ones here, so user-generated content. This just taken, I think Tiffany's makes this trophy, so that's why it's there. But you also have some other brand in here too, but really this is from Tiffany's Instagram. And then down here, this family all in OVO sweaters. These are the users here, and they've taken this picture, and then it feeds into OVO's story of family and connection and solidarity, and that's why it's on their Instagram. So now you've got two choices. You can go it alone. It'll be potentially slower and you might make some more mistakes, but you do have all the pieces here. You could implement all of this and absolutely crush it. Or you could get some coaching on it, do it with me, my team. I've got a really great network of support for all of these things. Go faster, avoid pitfalls, have some outside direction. If that's the case, feel free to hit the link below. You can fill out the application, tell me a bit about your business and where you're at, and then we can get on a call and talk about some brand strategy to get you to the next level.